Pastor Sean gave me all of his notes. Okay, so Pastor Sean, I know you're watching. I won't lose this because this man is a beast. Okay, I know Celeste knows this, but this is like full. Okay, this is the end of the book for these notes. So to say I'm impressed is an understatement. I've taken notes like that, and mine are never this organized. It's like mine are like over here, and then down here, and then I draw an arrow to that, like to connect those thoughts, and I leave all this space in between. So it's good. He has an arrow to just have that as like everything's together, and I'm like, that's nothing. Okay, so 2 Samuel 19. I know you all started to talk about it last week. I watched online and heard some great comments and commentary as well from Pastor Sean and from y'all as well. Just going over a quick synopsis. You guys, I think you made it through 10 from what Pastor Sean's notes are, which, I mean, can we say that they're wrong? Probably not, right? So we talked about the self-indulgence, and verse 1 through 4, and he was using the New Living Translation, which I'm like, I get lost with that one. I do Amplified and ESV mostly, but so he's talking about how the people's loyalty sacrificed and fought hard for David. So you remember this was when David was having a pity party, right? All about his son Absalom dying, and the people and how he was carried away, and Joab came to him and said, hey, wake up, the people just sacrificed a lot for you. You need to get your head back into the game, right? I know Pastor Sean said that. Get your head back in the game and, keep moving forward. Be the leader for your people, right? And as he goes on, talking about how it was strong but appropriate rebuke that Joab did, and that we all need people like that in our lives. And thankfully that David was able to receive that. Can you imagine what would have happened to Israel if David would have just sat in his sorrow and not moved forward? There would have been rebellion. There would have been a lot of just all of this upheaval for the people of Israel, even more than what they already had. And we go forward from there. And Absalom is dead. And, I don't know if he mentioned this on his thing. He was talking about the two-party system. Did he mention that? I didn't hear that at the end. No? Okay. Basically, from what Pastor Sean's notes are, is that you have David on one hand delivering the people from the enemies, and then you've got the people that were still Israel, the 10 tribes of Israel that previously we were still following Absalom, right? And he made the joke in his notes of the two-party system, Democrats and Republicans. So, see, they appreciate your joke. All right, so moving forward, we are at verse 11. Let's take a look at that. And I am, let's see, lost in a sea of black and white. All right, 2 Samuel 19. Then King David sent word to Zadok and to Abiathar the priest, saying, say to the elders of Judah, why are you the last to bring the king back to his house in Jerusalem, since the word of all Israel has come to the king and to his house? You are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? All right, so we're going to stop here for just a second. So he's talking to the house of Judah here, all of Israel, and okay. So Israel has, basically the 10 tribes of Israel have said that they want to bring the king back at this point. Judah still has not said, hey, we're going to we want King David back to rule over everything. And this is the King David's rebuke, kind of slight rebuke to Judah, saying, "Are we not brothers? Why are you not the first people to come to us and say all these things?" And so I took this as, hold on one second. Sorry, again, it would help if I was as organized as he was. I wrote notes on his notes, so don't worry. I didn't erase anything. So I had a question, and does anybody see it? I know that Pastor Sean mentioned that David was a Christ-like. Is that right? Does that ring a bell? Okay. So what I read when I was reading this, and maybe you can correct me, Pastor Don, if you have any other thoughts on this, feel free to chime in. As they continue to talk about this, I saw this as Jesus to the Jewish people, right? The Jewish people did not accept Christ, and yet the other people outside of that, even though they're all Jewish here, I'm kind of showing this as a paraphrasing it a little bit. So like the 10 tribes of Judah being the people outside of his family, which is the family of the Jewish people. And they wanted to bring in David first. And then basically David had to call out to the Jewish people, or to the tribe of Judah, and say, "Why are you the last people to accept me? Why are you the last people to do that?" And you could kind of see the correlation there between the tribe of Judah and the Jewish people and the rest of that, and basically the other 10 tribes being like the Gentiles. What do you think, Pastor Don?
I don't.
You don't? You're supposed to talk for a second so I can take a sip of water. You didn't get that cue?
Well, in a way, it is a lot like Christ. If you study the ministry of Christ, the tribe of Judah was mainly situated around Jerusalem.
Right.
At the southern Israel and that. Jesus was born in Nazareth. Remember, they said, can anything good come out of Nazareth?
Right.
I mean, his ministry flourished around the Galilee and Nazareth area in the north, but every time he got near Jerusalem and Judah, because that was considered Judah down there,
Mm-hmm.
and of course it was the center of the religious system too.
With the temple being there especially.
Problems, and that's where they plotted to kill him.
Right.
And et cetera. And you see this here. This is David saying, people in the rural area, they all have accepted me, but you at the heart here
Right.
are hesitant to bring me back. Why? And if you think about it, I don't know if that's true, but maybe it's because they were more the hierarchy, the rulers, I don't know. You see that even politically today in America, in the capitals and in the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
You can have politically a very red state like Florida, but if you get near Tallahassee and places like that, they can be
Right. Miami, Tallahassee.
the two-party system.
Right.
It's even true here in a spiritual sense, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
David's saying, he's realizing, I need you too. I don't just need all the kind of peasant people out here, the
No,
rural
right.
people, but I need you to welcome me back. That was very important.
And in the correlation between the Jewish people as well, I mean, it's like the idea of why were they so hesitant to accept Christ? Why would Judah be so hesitant to accept David as ruler over the entire 12 tribes of Judah, right? Instead of just be ruler over all of Israel instead of just themselves. Did they? It's very interesting. David never forced his way into the kingdom, right? And not in the beginning and not for now, and this goes in the correlation of David as a type of Jesus, or a type of Christ, as King Jesus never forces his way into his place, into our hearts, right? We accept Christ. We don't just, get beaten down by Jesus, right? It's always, we beat ourselves down and allow Christ into our hearts when we realize that we are fallible and that we need him. So that's kind of the correlation there. Okay, moving forward. All right. Verse 12, you are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? Say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? May God do so to me and more also, if you will not be commander of your army from now on in the place of Joab. So why do you think that David puts Amasa in place of Joab?
Because he would sway them all to come back.
Sway who?
Judah.
It sway.
Because of verse 14.
Verse 14.
He knew it would call them back if he appealed to Amasa.
Okay. But, Joab was pretty much the most powerful and very popular commander, right?
Right.
So, he swayed it. It would sway. Do you think that Joab killing Absalom had anything to do with it? Yes, maybe. Was it a rebuke to Joab?
Yeah, he stabbed him in the back.
Right, or through the heart, whichever one, yeah. It's kind of like an amalgamation of everything that Joab did, maybe. I also looked at 2 Samuel 17, 25. And Absalom, if you look at that, it talks about how Absalom had put Amasa as commander over the army as well. So do you think that maybe it was I'm still honoring my son and giving Amasa the place that his son gave him? Maybe. I don't know. Just thoughts, right? Just thoughts. Okay. What's that?
It's like a soap opera.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I-
it's getting crazier.
Anyone who says that the Bible is boring has never read the Bible. It's just like, you go and you're like, it's graphic. When you get to 20 and 21, and it talks about Sheba, not Bathsheba, but Sheba. Wow, yeah. Whew, the thing, it is intense, man. It's like trebuchets flying things over the wall. Wow. Okay, where are we at? 14, in this way he changed the hearts of all the men of Judah as one man. So they sent word to the king, return, you, all of your servants. So David returned and came to the Jordan. And Judah came, all the supporters from Judah came to Gilgal to meet the king and escort him across the Jordan. Can you imagine how much of a party and a parade that must have been? Here you go, you got David the triumphant king coming back to take over all of Israel, and you've got all the tribes sending people to escort him along. I wonder if some of it was like, hey, I'm here, look at me, I'm helping the king across. Some of that, a little bit one-upmanship of the tribes as well. Okay, and then we get into, and I can't say this name, Shimei. Anybody else have a better name? Shimei? Okay, we're gonna go with Shimei. That sounds a lot better than Shimei. Okay, then how do you say it? Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite of Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David, and 1,000 men of Benjamin with him. And Zibiah, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and 20 servants with him, rushed down the Jordan before the king. And they crossed the ford to bring over the king's household and to do what pleased him. And Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king as he was about to cross the Jordan, and said to the king, "Let not my lord consider me guilty, nor remember what your servant did wrong on the day that my lord left the king left Jerusalem, so that the king would take it to heart." So, does anybody remember what Shimei did? Cursed him. Was it just a little curse, like, get out of here, you? He followed, not only did he curse him, right? He followed him out of the area, yelling things at him, throwing things at him, and cursing him the entire way. Hey, David, don't, just forget all about that. I didn't mean it. Just don't worry about that, right? And so let's see what happens. Let's see. For your servant knows not that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I have come today, the first of all the house of Joseph, to come down to meet my lord the king. So, do you think that was a little planned? Like he knew that the writing was on the wall for him? It was like, man, if David gets back and I haven't asked for forgiveness, my head is gone. Yep. Right? So, I think he kind of saw all that and was running to him and saying, "Please forgive me." Okay? Let's see. Do you think that Shimei was genuine? Do you think that his repentance was genuine? You don't think so?
That's interesting. He cursed him in front of public, and then he wants forgiveness in front of everybody.
Yes.
So probably not.
Probably not. Because self-preservation. Okay, that's fair. Now, again, we don't know what's in people's hearts, right? Yes, sir.
In verse 17, it says there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him. So he came with his whole division or army.
He came with a bunch of servants and all of the people that he probably was like, yeah. So he brought a bunch of people to make a show in front of, to say, hey, I'm going to go ask for forgiveness, and I'm going to try to do this and try to save myself. Maybe he was genuine, right? Maybe he really did want to, have forgiveness. He does confess, he says, I have sinned. So, but have we in our lives ever said, yeah, God, I've sinned, and been not genuine about that? Been like, yeah, I know I sinned, but I'm probably going to do it again. Right? It takes a lot to be genuine with our confessions. Okay. Where are we at? 23. Okay, Miss Tina, you get to say this name.
Shimei.
Huh?
Shimei.
No, the Abishia. Is it a Abishah? No. Verse 21. But Abishai. Abishai, great. Abishai, the son of Zariah, said, should not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? Remember what David did as he was getting cursed? He said, let him be. If God told him to curse me, then so be it. If not, it'll come back on him, right? So here David says, what business of this is yours, or what business is this of yours, you sons of Zariah? How many times has David said, what business of this are you sons? Now, does anybody, did I did not know this, but did Pastor Sean go over who Zariah is?
She's the mother of the nephews.
They're, right. So they're the nephews. they're his nephews.
So that must be David's sister.
David's sister, right? So I think I can safely say I have nephews that are kind of like this, okay? And we probably all have family members that are like this, right? That we're like, hey, you guys need to, just don't worry about it. Let me take care of this, okay? Don't you worry about this. So he's talking to his family here still, like, man, what did my sister teach you guys? What is going on here, right? Like, I'm sure he has a very distinct idea of his sister and their kids. So, just as a side note, okay? Let's see. You shall now, he says, should anyone be put to death in Israel today? For do I not know that today I am king over Israel? Therefore the king said to Shimei, you shall not be put to death. And so the king gave him his promise. I will not put you to death. Right? That sounds like a promise that you can hang your hat on. Right?
Take it to the bank.
Yes. Except if you skip to 1 Kings 2 and 8 through 9. Anybody want to go to that real quick? Look that up. Are you doing that, Celeste? 1 Kings 2, 8 through 9. Yes, go ahead. So, well, let me preface it real quick. At this point, David is an old man and he's getting ready to pass on. Solomon is becoming king, or about to become king. And he tells Solomon,
And there is also with you Shimei, the son of Gera, the Benjaminite from Bahurim, who cursed me with a grievous curse on the day when I went to Mahanaim. Oh, Lord, help me.
yep, that's okay.
But when he came down to meet me at the Jordan, I swore to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put you to death with the sword. Now therefore do not hold him guiltless, for you are a wise man. You will know what you ought to do to him, and you shall bring his gray head down with blood to Sheol.
Right, listen, I'm not going to kill you. Okay? Remember, that's the promise. You're not going to be put to death by me. Okay? Now, my son, we'll see. We'll see.
Why do you think David did that?
I don't know. That's a great question. Why do you think David did that? He says he forgave him. Well, he didn't say he forgave him. He said, you shall not be put to death.
The Lord will take care of you.
This day.
This day. You will not be put this day.
Maybe he didn't want, he's coming back, they were celebrating his return. Maybe he didn't want to look like he was a revengeful type of.
Probably.
He wanted it to be positive. He wanted Israel to enjoy and be positive, and he didn't want to come back and then start.
Right. Well, I mean, he even says, hey, like, listen, even to Abishai, to his nephew, he says, listen, I'm the king. I know what's going on. Today, I'm the king over all of Israel. Nobody's going to die today. Right? Today. Remember that. Nobody's going to die today. So I think it has to do like what you're saying, Miss Diane, that he's more excited that he's taking the kingdom all back than he is about trying to go for there. So, okay. Let's see. Okay. Now we get to Mephibosheth. Did I say it right? Yep. The grandson, or the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, but he had not cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache. How dare he? Nor washed his clothes from the day the king left until the day he returned in peace and safety. And when he came to Jerusalem to meet the king said to him, why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? He said, "My lord the king, my servant Ziba betrayed me. For I said, 'Saddle a donkey for me so that I might ride on it and go with the king, for your servant is lame.' But he took the donkeys and left without me." Now, earlier in this, it talked about Ziba coming down. And he said, where was it at? And Ziba, in verse 17, just after Shimei. And Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and 20 servants with him, rushed down to the Jordan before the king. So he gets there, right? Probably before Mephibosheth, right? And he gets there, and if you look back as well, David, as he's leaving, he comes across Ziba, and he finds him with what? Do you guys remember? It's from, I think, chapter 16, if you want to go back and look at it. He finds him with 2 donkeys full of bread and grapes and wine. What's that?
200 loaves of bread.
200 loaves. Yeah, that poor donkey. That's all I gotta say. 200 loaves of bread. Yeah, those 2 donkeys, right? That's a lot for 2 donkeys to be carrying, unless they grew them bigger back in the day. Who knows, right? So Ziba, you see Ziba trying to get on David's good side when David is leaving, yet he didn't listen to his master, maybe he didn't listen to his master, right? So Mephibosheth says, "Listen, Ziba betrayed me. He went ahead without me, and I didn't have a chance to leave. It's not like he's going to run and catch up with them, right? He's lame. He's not going to be doing any of that." Where was I at? Further, what's that?
Do you think he didn't take care of himself in order to prove to David that he was still in mourning because David left?
I don't know if it was, when I was reading it, I don't think it was to prove to David that he was in mourning. I actually think he was in mourning. Like he was in mourning. Yeah, he was in mourning, right? Like you see, like other kings and during the, other times of mourning that people will wear sackcloth and ash and they don't trim their hair and, they go through all of these things. So there's a good chance that's he was actually in mourning. It's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. You see such a contrast here because the others so far, it's like they're positioning themselves to be on David's good side because he's the king and is the jockeying for position and all of this, and yet at the same time you feel like if the wind changed, they go with the wind. And here's this person who's in David and loving David for who David was, and humble and true and willing to say, "David, whatever, I don't care. I'm just glad that you're safe and you're back." I mean, it's such a contrast between them.
Well, the others are full of pomp and circumstance,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
And they came down with large groups, right? It talks about Ziba coming down with his 15 sons and his servants and everything else like that. And you talk about Shemaiah, whatever, coming down with 1,000 Benjamites, right? It's all big groups. Here, it doesn't say anything about Mephibosheth. He came down to meet the king. He came down somehow. We don't know how he came down, but I mean, and he didn't cut his hair. He didn't wash his clothes. He didn't clip his toenails. Ooh, gross. Right? Like, I don't know how long was David gone? Like, was it a year? Could have been a year. Like, ugh. That's all I gotta say. Ugh. Right? Like, right. Anyway, I've seen those pictures in books where the people get the long fingernails. Guinness World Book of Records might have Mephibosheth in there. That's good. Okay, back on topic here. He said, "My lord the king, my servant betrayed me, for I said, 'Saddle a donkey,' and we got Further, he has slandered your servant to my lord the king, but my lord the king is like the angel of God. So do what is good in your eyes. For were we not all of my father's household nothing but dead men before my lord the king? Yet you set your servant among those who ate at your own table. So what right do I still have to cry out any more to the king? Verse 28. Pastor Don. All right, or actually verse 29 now. And the king said to him, why speak any more of your affairs? I have said, you and Ziba shall divide the lands. And Mephibosheth said to the king, let him even take it all, since my lord the king has returned to his own house in safety and peace. So, kind of see his motives, right? His motives are, I'm just glad you're back. I don't need anything else from you. You let me sit and dine at your table. I don't need anything. So, it kind of reminds you of the story of Solomon dividing the baby, right? Mephibosheth didn't care about the other things. He only cared about what was going on. Okay, you guys are really quiet today. Am I talking too much? No. Okay. All right. Mephibosheth. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now, Barzillai. Distant relation to Godzilla, I believe. Very distant. The Gileadite came down from Rogelim and went on to the Jordan with the king to escort him over the Jordan. Now Barzillai was a very old man, 80 years old, and he had provided the king with food while he stayed at Mahanaim. Yes, for he was a very great and wealthy man. The king said to Barzillai, cross over with me, and I will provide for you in Jerusalem with me. I just moved it. But Barzillai said to the king, how much longer do I have to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am this day 80 years old. Can I discern between good and bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or drink? Can I still hear the voices of singing men and women? Why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? You see, he knew what was going on, right? He's like, I'm old. I'm not going to be of any use to you. Like, my wisdom might be there, but, like, I'm not going to enjoy myself. I can't hear the people playing music. He's never been to Exalt. That's all I got to say. Right? We play it loud. We play it. So he can't hear the people. He's lost his taste buds. And, okay, so I'm going to digress here for a second. And my wife is not in here to defend herself, so this is perfect. But you're here, but it's okay. It's okay, because my wife will openly admit this. When my wife and I were waiting tables, okay, we would get these older people in, and mostly old ladies, and they were always like, what's that? You're not an old lady, don't worry about it. They would, I'm stepping gently here now, aren't I? So they would get in and they would be like, can you take my coffee or my tea or my soup and microwave it? And I'm like, that's boiling when it comes out of like, we had this this instant hot water that like you would burn yourself, scald yourself if you ever like got it on your hand. And I'm like, how do you want this microwaved? Like, it is like 180 degrees, right? That's hot. And they would, or the soup, we served it at 185 degrees. And it's like, how much hotter can this be? Okay? And I'm digressing here from all of this because of Barzillai. My wife has now become this person that she's like, I need my tea like microwaved, even hotter, like And I'm thinking, is this what it's like? Like, he's lost his sense of like temperature in here. So, I don't know. I don't know why I brought that up, but I did. Because I have the microphone and I can talk. So if my wife goes back and listens to this, she'll laugh, hopefully, at that. Hopefully. But not to say that my wife's an old woman, but anyway. What's that? Thank you very much, Miss Tina. All right. Where am I at? All right. Your servant would merely cross over the Jordan with the king. Why should the king compensate me with this reward? Okay? So he doesn't want to be a burden. The guy's an old rich guy, right? He's already provided for the king and while he was on the run from Absalom, and he's trying to he's like, listen, I don't need you to compensate me. I can live peacefully at my own house. He goes on to say, he's like, let me go back to my own house and die and be buried with my fathers, right? I don't need you to do this for me. It's just going to be more added for you. But here is my son, okay? If you want to bless me and reward me, take my son, take my servant, this man, Chimham, and let him go across with you, okay? So in 37, please let your servant return so they may die in my own city by the grave of my father and mother. But here is your servant, Chimham, my son. Let him cross over with my lord, the king, and do for him what seems good to you. And the king answered, Chimham shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what seems good to you. And whatever you ask of me, I will do for you. If I can just... David seems like a very honorable, like, I'm going to remember the good things that you did for me. Always. Like, he's like, Mephibosheth, he still wanted to honor Saul. So he took him and let him sit at the table. Barzillai, he wants to honor him, and he takes his son and says, let him come across with me as well. There's something to be said about honoring the people that honor you, right? It's hard to do sometimes. Sometimes we feel like we're not in the position to be able to honor the people that honor us, but it's still, David sets a very good example of honoring those that honor you. So that was just my tidbit there. Okay. So that all the people crossed over the Jordan. When the king had crossed over, he kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his place. Then the king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him, and all the people of Judah and also half the people of Israel accompanied the king. And all the men of Israel came to the king and said to him, why have our brothers, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king and his household and David's men with him over the Jordan? Then all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is a close relative to us, so why then are you angry about this matter? Have we eaten at all at the king's expense? Or has anything been taken for us? Then the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, we have 10 shares in the king, and we have more claim on David than you. Why then did you treat us with contempt and ignore us by rushing ahead? Were we not the first to speak of bringing back our king? But the words of the men of Judah were harsher than those of the men of Israel. So, this probably will be a reminder. I would say that the men of Israel would say that this is probably a reminder to them as things go on, because as we go into the next chapter, we're going to talk a little bit about that. It sets them up to still have division with the rest of Israel, or the rest of the tribes. So, or Israel and Judah not actually have a peaceable reunion, right? It's like having a older sibling, and they like go to mom first. mom and dad first, and they get their way, and then the younger, I'm speaking out of experience here, so you go back and forth, and you're like, well, mom said I could do this. Well, oh, well, but why are you allowed to do that and I'm not? Or why are you taking all the glory for this? I was the one that tried to weasel my way in, I'm not going to lie. And my sister was always like, seriously? You're really doing that? So, anyway, that is good. Okay. Are we ready to move on to 20, or does anybody have any questions or comments or anything like that yet? No? No, you're good? Okay. Let's move forward. If I can.
I did have a question. Was there anything else mentioned of Shimei until King Cookie mentioned that was he faithful to David continually from that point, or did he have like a bad reputation still?
I didn't see anything in. No, that's a good question. It's like, maybe David had something in the back of his mind always, like, man, that Shimei, don't trust him, right? Maybe, it's like, maybe he might even told Solomon as, Solomon's growing up and as that whole thing transpires, right? Like, listen, this guy, he cursed me, and then it just probably got brought back up as he's going through and going, okay, all these people, all these things that they did, or that they are going to do or whatever, as a warning, here, don't trust this guy. So, I don't know. It's a good question. Might have to look into that. So, okay. Ready for chapter 20. We're flying solo now. All right. There happened to be a worthless and wicked man. Can you imagine being worthless and wicked and still making it into history like this? Okay? You had to be really worthless and really wicked. Okay? That's really bad. A worthless and wicked man named Sheba, the son of Bichari, a Benjamite. He blew a trumpet and said, "We have no portion in David and no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel." So all the men of Israel deserted David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichari. But the men of Judah stayed faithfully with their king from the Jordan to Jerusalem. So they're almost across the Jordan, or they just get over the Jordan, right? And they get into this bickering battle of who should have been with David first. And this guy, who is obviously good at sowing seeds of dissension, blows a trumpet and says, "All right, boys, let's go. We're taking our 10 tribes and we're going home," right? And so somehow, we all know that one person, right? Does everybody don't say the names out loud. We're okay. But we all know that one person who is wicked and worthless that could probably get this done. Okay? And most of the time they're politicians. I'm just going to say that. I won't say any names from politicians, but they are worthless and wicked, and they will call people to leave what they were actually supposed to be doing, sow that dissension, and take everybody back. So, right after the Jordan, all the men of Israel deserted David. They followed Sheba, the son of Bichri, but the men of Judah stayed faithfully with their king from the Jordan to Jerusalem. Then David came to his house, or the palace at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to take care of the house. Very nice, right? Leave the ladies at home, take care of the place. I'm going to give you a great reward, right? And he placed them under guard and provided for them, but he never knew them after that. So they were done being concubines, to say the least. So they were confined and lived as widows until the day of their death. not necessarily the nicest thing to do, but, I mean, he did take care of them, right? Yes, ma'am.
Well, did his son sleep with him on the rooftop? So, that's not there.
There you go.
Like, no said.
Enough said. All right.
So, poor women, I mean, they got treated poorly.
But are you saying they got what they deserved?
No, I said they got
Oh.
treated poorly. by
Oh,
everyone.
okay.
But at the same time, if I was David, like, my son just slept with him.
So you are saying that, yes. Yeah, okay. Just making sure. Okay.
I don't think I want that choice.
Yeah. No, they didn't have a choice in them. Right.
I don't think any little girl, when she was old, would say, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a kung fu boy.
Well, no.
It wasn't like a wife.
Right.
And the fact that we don't know when Solomon took them, if they were forced into that or they willingly went, it doesn't say.
Good point.
Okay, and so, just the fact that, once they had been compromised like that, he wasn't gonna throw them back in,
That's fair.
I guess, I mean, he did shimmy on him,
Yeah.
but he wasn't dying.
I understand what you're saying. We're good.
I mean, in a sense, we're what, the benevolent heart of David type of here at this point,
Yes.
but he took care of them,
He did. He did take care of them.
but once they were just like,
Yes. All right. Now the king said to Amasa, "Summon the fighting men of Judah to me within 3 days, and be present here yourself." So Amasa went to summon the fighting men of Judah, but he delayed longer than the time which David had set for him. And David said to Abashi, his nephew, "Now Sheba, the son of Bichari, will do us more harm than Absalom did. Take your Lord's servants and pursue him so that he does not find fortified cities for himself and escape from our sight." I think it's interesting that he thinks that Absalom, who's trying to kill him, that Sheba is doing more harm than what Absalom did, right? Like he could have. I digress. Okay. What's that? The motives were different? You think? What? In what way? Sure. Okay. But he still wanted. Overall, he also. Don't you think that Absalom wanted the throne as well? Maybe. It's fair.
Sheba is dividing the whole people of Israel. And Solomon, like, he could have at least kept everyone together. If you're thinking about the heart of God for his people, I can see how David, in this place, said, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be king. Maybe my son is supposed to be king.
Mhm.
If he's there to lead the people, at least he would keep them all together. This is worse because it's dividing the people of God.
Okay. No, it's great. That's why we're talking about it, right? Okay. Where are we at? Verse 7. So, our man Joab's back. So Joab's men went after him, along with David's bodyguards, the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and all the warriors. They went out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, the son of Bichari. And when they were at the great stone in Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them. Now, Joab was wearing his military uniform, and over it he had a belt with a sheathed sword strapped around his hips. And as he went forward, it fell out. Joab said to Amasa, "Is it going well with you, my brother?" It's a great way to greet someone, right? "Hey, how are you doing? Is everything going good with you?" And then with his right hand, Joab took hold of Amasa by the beard. This is not why I shaved, okay? That's a hold of Amasa by the beard as if to kiss him in greeting. It's a very weird way gotta say, Zach, I'm not gonna greet you like this, okay? All right? No, not gonna do it. But Amasa, who had replaced Joab as David's commander, was off guard and not attentive to the sword in Joab's hand. So Joab struck Amasa in the abdomen with the sword, spilling his intestines to the ground. I just gotta say, Joab's gotta be very strong, and that sword must have been very sharp. Okay? Like, two things all together, and there you go. All right, so with that, Joab struck Amasa in the abdomen and spilling his intestines to the ground. Without another blow, Amasa died. Then Joab and Abishi, his brother, I'm going to leave that. His brother pursued Sheba, the son of Bichri. Now one of Joab's young men stood by him and said, "Whoever favors Joab and is for David, let him follow Joab." But Amasa was wallowing in his blood in the middle of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people who came by stopped to look, he moved Amasa from the highway into the field and threw a garment over him. When he saw that everyone who came by, Amasa stopped. That is probably, well, no, definitely. It's super graphic. It's like, wow. I mean, you're like walking by and running by to go on to kill somebody else, and you see somebody in the middle of the road, and bleh, right? A lot of good stuff. And it also proves that rubberneckers have all been around for a long time, right? We all see that traffic accident and what's going on? Yeah. Here they saw the traffic accident and they stopped to watch. Okay. Verse 13. Once the body of Amasa was removed from the highway, I love how it just kind of goes right on there, right? Everyone followed after Joab to pursue Sheba, the son of Bichri. Now Joab went through all the tribes of Israel to Abel, even Beth-Makkah, and all the Berites, and they assembled and also went after Sheba. And the army of Joab came and besieged Sheba and Abel Beth-Makkah. And they built up an assault ramp against the city, and it stood against the outer rampart. And this is days. We have to think, our minds go so fast and how things are done nowadays. It's not like you had the Seabees out there building out a rampart and getting it done in a day. They have to cut down wood. They have to build all this stuff up, build up dirt. Can you imagine it always amazed me when you talk about laying sieges to cities, the people inside the city watching all of this happen. That's a scary, scary thought to see oh, there's David, the guy that we sang songs about, how he killed his 10,000s and he's got all of his mighty men out there, and oh yeah, he's building a siege against our city. This is going to be good. It's going to end real well for us. I can see it already. And speaking of, all right, and they stood against the honor with Joab wreaking destruction to make the wall fall. I think that's he's just banging on the wall with something, just hitting it. That's after he had just got done, laying out someone's intestines. So he's focused. He's hyper-focused. You got to give him credit, right? It's David wants this guy. I'm going to get the guy. So then a wise woman cried out from the city, "Hear, hear, tell Joab, come here so that I may speak to you." So when he approached her, the woman asked, "Are you Joab?" And you'd think that she wouldn't know who Joab is, right? The dude banging on the wall who's wearing the military uniform, whose reputation probably preceded him, right? But, what's that?
Not his wanted poster.
Well, he wasn't a wanted man. He wasn't Good point. Okay. he says that I am. Then she said to him, listen to the words of your maidservant. He answered, I am listening. Then she said, in the past, people used to say, they will certainly ask advice at Abel. So they settled the dispute. I am one of the peaceable and faithful in Israel. You were seeking to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? So Joab answered, far be it from me that I would swallow up or destroy. That is not true, but a man of the hill country of Ephraim, Sheba the son of Bichari, by name, has lifted up his hand in rebellion against King David. Only hand him over, and I will leave the city. And the woman said to Joab, behold, this is my kind of woman right here. Behold, his head shall be thrown over the wall. All right? Like, she was a wise woman. She knew that if Joab got in the city, he was going to destroy the entire city. And she knew that if there was any way to stop him from doing that, she would do it. That's got good wisdom right there, right? It's a city of peace, a city of advice. We don't want to destroy this. We want to keep this going. So, behold so we'll go back to that. Behold, his head shall be thrown to you over the wall. And thus started football. And then the woman in her wisdom went to all the people to inform them of the agreement. I feel bad for Sheba at this point. Like, he's got an entire city against him at this point. Like, imagine he's like hiding. He's like, oh, I'm going to hide here and wait and like hang out. And then all of a sudden, like, this woman goes, oh, that's Joab. I want to save my city. And then she goes and tells all her friends. Well, maybe she only had to tell that one friend that told everybody else. You never know. And tells everybody to, hey, if we get Sheba, this will stop, right? That's all we got to do to get this to stop. So, then, all right, here we go. And then the woman said to Joab, behold, his head will be thrown over the wall. I just like that line. And then the woman in her wisdom went to all the people, and they beheaded Sheba, the son of Bichari, and threw his head to Joab. So he blew the trumpet, signaling the end of the attack, and they dispersed from the city, every man to his own tent. And Joab returned to Jerusalem to David the king. So that's a pretty quick way to end a war, or to end a battle, right? You go straight in, get the guy's head, and go for it. I love the happy birthday song. Yes, happy birthday. Any comments or anything that anybody wants to add to this for a moment? No? Okay. Joab did prove himself. Do you think that David is going to be happy that he killed? We'll see. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. I think, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you. What did you say, Zach? You're not sure? Okay. All right. I love, if there's one thing that I think that is very interesting, it's how God uses women to defeat enemies. I think it's very interesting. Like, you look at Jael, right? Women are not afraid to do what needs to be done in the Bible. Like, a tent spike to somebody's head, that's intense, right? It's not like, what's that? No, go ahead. It was intense. Yeah. Got it. Yes. And, you've got this wise woman. I forget, did it just say her name and I missed it?
No, it didn't.
It didn't say her name. Just a wise woman. She doesn't even need to be known. That's how wise she is and how awesome she is. Like, she goes, she sets out, they find him, off with his head, we're good. All right. But I think it's just interesting how God uses women to finish things that need to be, I don't know, just a thought. All right. Joab returned to Jerusalem. Now Joab was commander over the entire army of Israel. Benaiah, the son of Joiada, I was trying to sound that out as I was saying it, was commander over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, the king's bodyguards. Adoram was over the forced labor, and Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahuludad, was the recorder. And Shiva, not to be confused with Sheba, was the scribe, and Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Also, Ira the Jairite was priest to David. Okay. Well, we just blew through like one whole chapter, and I'm sure Pastor Sean is like, yeah, we could have probably taken a little bit of time and gone through some things there. So we have, anybody have anything that, yes, ma'am. I think he wanted his place back, don't you?
Because he didn't come back when they said he was supposed to. He was disobedient.
I was like, man, that's kind of intense, but it makes sense that he did that because he didn't obey what the king said.
Do you think it was because go ahead.
I think it was also probably too weak for Joab's taste.
You think?
Yes.
You think? Just a little bit. Yeah. I mean, Joab would probably, imagine if Joab was there when he sent Amasa off, when David sent Amasa off and said, you listen, you got to do this in 3 days, okay? Be back here in 3 days with all the men, and we're going to go out. And Amasa just takes his time. There is why he took his time. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, to just be appointed to the right by David and be like, hey, you got this now. Maybe? I don't know.
I mean, he was just commander for somebody else, and now he's commander for this guy.
Yeah, but look at
He just didn't care,
maybe he didn't.
you know. But Joab, like, even though he's intense and sometimes he finds loopholes around things,
Mhm.
he does what he's told. Like, he is a sheepdog.
Yes.
You can tell him what to do, he will go and do it. And Amasa, like, he obviously kind of felt like there was wiggle room.
Took a sweet old time.
Yeah, and that's not how it works in that realm, in army life. Like,
No. Especially yes, John.
So Joab basically reproved David, it says in my notes here, and says, go back and celebrate or your people will leave.
Right, that was, yeah.
Joab did a real good thing, and then Joab saved David again, and then David said, well, I'm going to put Amasa in charge of the army now. So Joab might have been feeling, gee, that's a nice reward, you know. Maybe he was kind of mad at that situation. Saved David's hide again, and he loses his chief job as chief of the army. So
Mhm.
let's see how they do Amasa. You know, Amasa also, as you mentioned, followed Absalom. So maybe Joab had a lot of
Maybe.
It doesn't have enough info.
No, but we can speculate, right? We can dig into that and go, why would you do this? I mean, like anybody, there could have been a combination of things, right? He could have been jealous. He could have been like, okay, Amasa took my job, like you said, I'm gonna, get rid of him. He probably thought that he wasn't strong enough. He wasn't diligent and focused enough, right? If he knew that he only had 3 days, and I think it even says as was custom, like they're used to doing that. It takes 3 days to gather the troops and let's go, And Amasa just took his time and, met up with Joab and his army and all of that. That to me says that Joab just knew that he couldn't get the job done, or maybe he couldn't get the job done the way that Joab wanted to do the job, right? Maybe he was afraid that Amasa was going to go to Sheba and try to talk with him and settle it that way, when Joab knew that, that the only way to actually get this done was to get ahead in the game. Yeah. Anyway. Anything else?
Well, Joab even dropped his sword. It says it fell out, and Amasa still was clueless.
Was it his sword or was it his sheath?
Oh, shoot. What was it that fell?
I think it was his sheath that fell out.
Oh, but still.
With the,
Like, he wasn't paying attention.
right.
And anyone that knew Joab should have been paying attention.
Yes.
So,
Well, he was a weak leader.
But did he just, he was a weak leader appointed by the king, though.
Yeah, so Job took it upon himself to correct the situation, I guess.
Yeah.
Where was David? He was already gone.
He was staying there. He didn't follow along. Yes, Jeannie.
I was thinking that Joab was placed by Amasa. And so Joab, I thought, being the person that he was, I think he had to answer this guy because he took his place. And not only that, it's a real big message to everybody, including the king, that you can't underestimate me. Because I'm subject to do anything. And
Anything.
because I think we debated about where David that Joab killed his son.
Oh, I think he knew. Yeah. Especially since,
I think that's the reason he was placed on the path. And then, like I said, Joab had to come back strong. He's strong enough. And whatever he came with, how he killed Joab.
right. Right. We're gonna, hold on one second. First Kings, what is it, 2? Okay. So I'm gonna jump to First Kings, since we're talking about Joab and how awesome he is, and what David probably thinks about him. 1 Kings 2, verse 5. Moreover, you also know that Joab the son of Zeruiah Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, how he dealt with the two commanders of the armies of Israel, Abner the son of Ner and Amasa the son of Jether, whom he killed, avenging in time of peace for blood that had been shed in war, and put the blood of war on the belt around his waist and on sandals on his feet. Act therefore according to your wisdom, but do not let his gray head go down to Sheol in peace. So he didn't say, bloody him, but he did say, think about what you're going to do with him. And because while he probably was a great commander, he did things. Amasa was in his own army, right? You don't do that to people that you're serving with. Shouldn't anyway, right? You shouldn't take revenge on other people that you're working alongside of. And David is saying, listen, he did bad things to people when it could have been helped. So, okay, right. Finger to throat means death, right? What's that?
I'm just thinking, why did David always let someone else take care of his situation? That's twice now.
Well, at this point, he is preparing to die. So he's like, he's an older man and he can't,
Well, that's true, but he didn't take care of it at the time. He's a king, and this happened.
he saw the advantage of what,
And then he's thinking of this later. Well, this needs to be taken care of. You guys take care of it however you will, but do something about it. I don't know, it just seems funny that.
it does, honestly, yeah.
It seems like in the whole given situation of
turmoil.
Yeah, power plays, and people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if who was the strong leader that would say, okay, that was wrong, we'll take care of it now. I don't know, have you been in leadership? I see how that happens, and once it happens, it's hard to rein it back in. And you need someone who, with wisdom, but with strength, will say, okay, I'll do the hard thing, and we'll make things right.
So you never had anybody like from FOB then, right?
Sometimes. We're looking at a political situation, and I'm sitting here, having pastored for over 40 years, going, this is what happens in church sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Where you get authority vacuum and power plays, and somebody you thought was really good, and then they rise up and go, oh, I didn't know you had that in you. And then another person responds to that, and you're constantly putting out fires. That's what's going on here.
So you've had a few Amassas and Joabs in your day.
Well, probably. I'm not.
Pastor Don's look. This is recorded. You guys can't say anything. It's totally good.
It's hard to stand up and take care of things, because sometimes you're not even sure yourself. I think this is what's happening, but I don't know. We'll just let it play out and let God take care of it. And sometimes that's the best way to do it. But there are other times when you have to step in and go, okay, I'm ultimately in charge here, responsible, and I'll decide.
And
I don't know.
and I think David wasn't good about contention.
He was not.
He was
ever.
not good at contention.
Yes.
You know, that was the weakness of his leadership.
For sure. I mean,
I think that's what I was trying to say. He was so good in so many ways that he had a hard time doing the hard thing. Not in battle so much.
sure.
He was a warrior, but when it came to confronting and saying this and that in his own family and in his own kingdom, I think he tended to kind of let it go and then it played out.
Well, I think we can tell from the Psalms that David questioned himself. He questioned some of the things that he probably did, and yeah.
Well, he had so much blood on his hands, like God couldn't even let him build a temple.
Right. I was just thinking that.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's like, is he carrying that? And like, I have so much blood on my hands, I can let a few people pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But to pass that on to your son, like,
I'm not saying it's right.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Is it a stretch to bring a parallel here? I'm not sure.
Please do.
But I was just thinking about in Acts, in chapter 1, verse 16, it talks about how Judas, when he went, it says, I'll just read it, brothers, scripture had been fulfilled, which the Holy Spirit spoke beforehand by the mouth of David concerning Judas, who became, by David, who became a guide to those who arrested Jesus, for he was numbered among us and was allotted his share in the ministry. Now this man acquired a field when the reward of his from the reward of his wickedness, and fell headlong, and he burst open in the middle, and all his bowels gushed out. I don't know if there's like it's a stretch to bring a comparison or a parallel to Amasa, because Amasa wasn't technically faithful like Jesus, right? Because he served.
He served Absalom and he served David, but he was appointed. He was appointed David, and not only that, but Amasa was. But go ahead, keep going.
It's like Judas was also chosen by Jesus to be a disciple.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
and Amasa disobeyed, and Judas disobeyed, and rejected Jesus. I don't know. It's just, I just thought that was interesting. I know it's a graphic thing, but that's what happened to Judas. Afterwards, bowels coming out.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Did somebody else have something over here? I thought I saw somebody raise their hand. No? Okay. Okay. Well. What's that?
What a way to end.
No. I mean, there could be a parallel. I'm like, there. I mean, if we look at David as a Christ-like, right, as a type of Christ, then there quite possibly there's so many parallels anyway. Like we look at things and we go, oh yeah, well, that parallels to this, and this is a shadow of this, and Amasa could be the parallel and the shadow of Judas. Right? With some study, I could probably get behind that. Maybe you should do a study on that. Yeah. You have what challenge accepted? Excellent. Next week. Okay. Well, if we don't have anything else, I know it's early, but is it early? Oh no, it's almost 8. Yeah. Well done. I'm before 8. That's always my goal. I got chastised last time. I did this, and I was 8:15, I think. Yeah, Miss Lisa almost did to me what the wise woman. All right, that's all I got to say. Her name was Miss Lisa. That's right there. Now we'll end it. How about that? All right, let's pray. Lord, we just thank you for tonight, God. We thank you so much for just imparting things into our hearts, God. Let us take this word. Let us take these chapters of Samuel here, 2 Samuel, and let us digest them, God. We know that it's more than just history here. There is meat to be discovered and taken in and ingested here. And God, I thank you so much for the example of David, the example of his mighty men, the things that need to be done and how they were done. God, I ask that you would just let us just have this time. And Lord, I continue again. I ask you to touch Pastor Sean, allow him to feel rested and healed. And we ask any sickness in this body, God, that we would just cast that out in your name, Jesus. And we just ask for healing over anyone who might be fighting anything. And again, we praise you and thank you. In your holy name we pray. Amen. All right.
Thank you for subbing.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Still substitute teacher.
Yeah.
I got to turn them papers into you guys.
Oh, okay. I'll get it to Pastor Sean.
No, you're the substitute. So you gotta-
Sounds good.
Well done.
Hey, thank you. I'm gonna turn this off. I don't know.